The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Koff. I'm a registered dietitian and the CEO of the Better Nutrition Program, and I am thrilled to have you join us here today. Thank you so much for registering. This is going to be an extremely impactful webinar. First of all, as a practitioner and also as an individual, I am so motivated to help people give their bodies the amount of magnesium that it needs on a daily basis to run better. But one of the areas that I'm extremely passionate about is really this area of how it helps us to get better fitness results. Because I feel like if you're investing in fitness and if you're doing fitness to help your body feel better and look better and perform better, you need to understand the power of magnesium. So I am thrilled to be here today. I'm really grateful to Natural Vitality for sponsoring this webinar, and to my guest fitness expert, Jake Trione, who I had the privilege of meeting recently in Dallas at the IDEA convention. He has an incredible background, and we are going to get into really the nitty-gritty of performance and what that means and demands of the body. So I'm excited about that. Just a couple of housekeeping tips. You will get a recording as promised at the end. You do need to participate and listen through on this webinar in order to be eligible for that power-packed grand prize of products as well as better nutrition tools. But you also have access to, for free, and thank you to Natural Vitality for this, to get the Better Nutrition Magnesium Evaluation. This is a tool that I have healthcare practitioners using as well as myself, and also I recommend that each one of you use, whether you're a retailer, a practitioner yourself, or an individual who is seeking to get and keep their better health, because there is no other way of knowing if you are getting in the better amount of magnesium. And that's really critical. We're not talking about a blood test when we're talking about physical performance and what the body has, if the body has enough of what it needs to run better. Another housekeeping tip, we are going to have questions and answers at the end. So please feel free to lob your questions in through the question box. If you have difficulty hearing me or seeing the slides, please let me know through the chat. Of course, we are digital, so at times sound may go in and out. It may be on your end, it may be on my end. We'll do the best that we can, but that's also why I offer the recording to make sure that you have this after the fact. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into it so that we can get started. We're going to have a conversation today about magnesium. But before we have that conversation, I'm going to explain why we want to have a conversation about magnesium. What is it that we're all seeking? What do we all want? And then we'll talk about why magnesium is a part of that. Then we're going to go into those helpful tips. We really want to talk about optimal performance as it relates to fitness and the nutrition that powers it. And to do that, I'll obviously, with my background, start off on the nutrition front, and then I'm diving into what, for me, this is really a great opportunity to ask Jake a lot of the questions that I have. I've also crowdsourced a lot of questions, both from people who sent me questions about fitness as well as specifically when I was talking about this topic. So we'll go through that, and then we'll go to a Q&A, which will also provide some helpful resources. I want to draw your attention to the bottom of this first slide. You're going to see it repeated throughout. Do not forget to text to get the Better Magnesium Evaluation, the quiz, for free via email. The texting only works in the United States. If you're joining us from elsewhere, please send me an email to let me know, and we will get it to you in another way. Okay. So what do we all want? Well, we don't all want better nutrition. And even as much as after this whole conversation, I know you're going to say that we all want magnesium, but the reality is we want what magnesium actually delivers. We all want better health. And I'm pretty clear, if we could just go about our days and have better health, we would. If it didn't matter what we ate or how many hours we slept or even the quality of our sleep, or for many of us, if it didn't matter, if we could look however we wanted, if we didn't have to pursue fitness, we might not even do that. But the reality is today we know that we need to do these things for our better health. And because we want that better health, what I want to offer today is to help you hone in on why magnesium is so critical to your better health. When I ask people, how are we going to get that better health today? Some people say, oh, it's vegan, it's paleo, it's fasting, it's dairy-free. And none of those are wrong and none of those are right. The reality of it is that in order for our bodies to run better, in order for us to have better health, we need better nutrition. And we can get better nutrition with any of these different plans, but we need to make sure we're giving our body what it needs to run better. And that especially includes magnesium. So how do we actually get better health? It's a combination of better nutrition and better fitness. I hope maybe as soon as 5 years, it's probably more likely 10 or 15 years from now, that I won't have to explain what better nutrition is. I'm on this mission. It's what the Better Nutrition program is about. We want to explain what puts the better in that better nutrition. And today we also have Jake with us to explain what puts the better in better fitness. But what you're going to notice, what you're going to learn, what I've already given away a bit, is magnesium is really essential to that better. We're going to talk a little more about that. So when we think about better sports nutrition, and I was just having a great conversation last night with somebody about who's the best athlete, and in different, when we look at different sports, what are the better athletes? this individual was just fascinated with LeBron, right? And I think so many people are fascinated with LeBron. I personally am fascinated with Serena Williams, especially just coming back after her pregnancy and seeing her performance. And what we know about better sports nutrition is it's not just, hey, what are you eating, right? It really is about understanding what the individual does in three different ways. It's about understanding that there's better nutrition for your actual performance. So in and of the moment, pre-gaming, what you're having during your actual performance. But it's essential for us to understand about better recovery. How do we help the body turn off after that performance? Even if it's about turning off after you've had a scrimmage or after you've trained at a high level, that recovery we know is absolutely essential to that better performance, and that overall better sports nutrition is going to include nutrition for recovery. And then if you've ever heard me speak at all, or if this is the first time hearing, you're going to hear me debunk a myth. You are not what you eat. You are what you digest and absorb. And that's absolutely critical when we start to understand what happens to the body when it's performing in fitness, when it's performing at a high level. When in those instances, when the body is helping you be hyper focused, your eyes laser sharp, being able, if you're a goalie and you're able to see on the different sides, or if you're focused in on the ball coming at you or where you're sending the ball, you need to be hyper focused. Your big muscles need to all be tight in. Your small muscles need to be, and I'm going to leave all this to Jake. This is where my expertise goes. But, we need to be really dialed in. But if we stay dialed in like that, it's unsustainable. So we're going to talk about why it's so critical for us to get that recovery in. But in order to get the recovery and the performance to be dialed in, your digestion has to be running better. So better sports nutrition is powered by giving your body the amount of magnesium that it needs. And here are just some of the ways, just some of the ones that, jump to mind. When we talk about better performance, our better performance occurs when our muscles are able to contract and also relax. When we're getting the oxygen uptake that our body needs, that our cells need in order to perform. When we have better electrolyte balance to avoid dehydration, to allow for performance. That better recovery is about allowing that muscle to relax, also to turn off stress. So the sheer act of performance at any high level, whether it's me doing this webinar right now, hopefully being very engaging and high performing, or whether it's, stepping onto stage, or whether it's stepping to sing or to dance or to whatever your performance is, and certainly here we're talking about fitness, that actually is stress producing in the body. That when our body experiences stress, it turns attention away from digestion. That's so important for us to understand. It also keeps us dialed in tight and tense, which doesn't allow for us to sleep better. And that better sleep, we need that better sleep for better recovery. Better digestion. We need to eliminate the toxins, the waste products that are produced in our body as a result of performance. And we also need to support healthy digestion so that the nutrients that your body needs to perform and to recover, as well as to support its digestive system, all those nutrients get where they're going. Today, if you look on Instagram or on Facebook, we're giving a lot of credit to people for what they're eating, right? Or even what they're snapping photos of. Who knows if they're even eating it? But let's assume that they're eating it. But actually, we should be only giving credit when those nutrients have actually achieved where they're supposed to go in the body. So it's not about eating it. It's about digesting it, breaking it down into usable form, and then having those nutrients go where they're supposed to go, and having there be space for them because we've eliminated the used stuff. So that digestion is going to be absolutely critical to our better sports performance. So when we're talking about magnesium a little bit further, I invite you, while we're doing this webinar, to flex your muscle, just like this dude over here, right? When you flex, whenever the body needs a muscle to flex or move, the channels open up inside the cells, and that allows calcium to enter and create that contraction. So now I'm going to invite you to hold that bicep the entire time that we're doing this webinar. I'll see if you even make it to the next slide. I often do this when I'm watching people, when I'm doing my live speaking engagements, because it's so fun to see people be like, is she kidding me? Are we really going to keep doing that? And that's because imagine if you were going to hold that bicep muscle tense like that, flexed all day. Well, it would be pretty hard to type or to put your clothes on, to hug someone. Maybe it's okay to feed yourself, but maybe not so easy. You're starting to get the point. And no matter what, it would be tiring. And that's why we need that body, we need that muscle to relax. And that relaxation is when magnesium shuttles the calcium back out. Shuttles is a gentle word for saying that magnesium needs to be there to kick that calcium back out. So what happens is when our magnesium levels are low, calcium is lingering in the cells. It's causing those muscles to stay contracted and nerves to continue firing. Over time, this leads to weaker muscles or the prevention of creating muscle, lean body mass, spasm and cramps, as well as tics, restlessness, and anxiety. So if we are trying to have better sports performance, we need to make sure that we have adequate magnesium inside of our cells. When our stress and our anxiety go up, those magnesium levels naturally decrease. And so this is actually creating a vicious cycle. So literally, the only way to break the cycle and restore a healthy state is to increase your magnesium intake to a healthy level on a daily basis. If you have not already downloaded the Better Nutrition Magnesium Evaluation, I am reminding you right now to text CALM123 to 44222 because it is the only way to know if you are getting in enough magnesium. When we are trying to figure out if we're getting in enough magnesium, it is not just about saying, am I eating a food, right? It's not just about the food part. We have to take into account what is going on for us throughout our day. Have we been flexing our muscles? Have we been more stressed? Who are we? But also, what else are we taking in? I'm going to talk further about this as I talk about things like calcium intake and some of the other things. But it goes into detail and asks you these questions in the magnesium evaluation. This is the first place I know because I had to create it because as a dietitian for 20 years, this didn't exist anywhere. I had to sit down with my patients and ask about their food and their supplements and their medications and their lifestyle behaviors and their elimination and all of these things. And now you have the ability to do that in a quick, easy quiz. And it says text at the bottom, CALM123. There we go. Okay, so we need a better balance of that calcium and magnesium. So are you getting in enough magnesium? The answer for much of this country is no. Now you might look and say, oh my gosh, I love almonds. I'm having almond milk every day. Well, how much of your almond milk is actually almonds? You would be shocked to know that depending on the actual almond milk and whether you're making it yourself, that sometimes it's as little, you would be getting as little if you go from a difference of an almond actually down to an almond milk of 10% of the amount of magnesium. Cashews, now I actually make my cashew milk at home. I soak it, I puree it, I don't get rid of anything, so I might get a higher amount of magnesium in there. You might be having pepitas, sesame seeds, you might be getting in greens and grains. However, eating healthy foods is great, but it's usually not enough. And there are a number of different reasons. One, sometimes we might be eating more processed versions. I was just talking about the almond milk version. I could be talking about with grains, you might be getting flour. When we go from a shaft of wheat to white flour, we lose about 80% of magnesium. So I'm going to show you a statistic in a moment that's going to shock you, but it's also going to make a lot of sense when we look at how popular white flour and white bread, white crackers, the things that we make with white flour have become in this country. Another one that I think is really important for us to understand is that our soil has eroded. We have not taken good care of our soil. Because we have not taken good care of our soil, we aren't, a cashew today or a grain today does not have the amount of magnesium that it used to because of that nutrient erosion. One of the other things I was talking before about that balance between calcium and magnesium. Well, many of us have been hearing from our healthcare practitioners, maybe been hearing from TV, et cetera, how important it is to get in calcium. And I just told you calcium is responsible for contracting muscles. Of course we need to get in calcium. But we've actually been overemphasizing our intake of calcium and not talking at all about magnesium really until the last 5 to 10 years. And I would say more so on the last 5 and even the last 2 years in terms of popularity. So calcium is not bad. You do need to get it in. But the fact of the matter is, for dietary choices, a lot of people have emphasized getting in calcium and we're getting in less magnesium. One of the other reasons is that I have a lot of people who just don't do a great job of eating greens. And more often than not, I have people that maybe are reducing their intake of carbohydrate. And as a result, they're consuming less grains. Maybe they're following a gluten-free diet and they've removed whole sets of grains on that part. Maybe you're not consuming nuts and seeds. Maybe you were following more of a fat-free diet and not consuming those. And so we could see how also your food choices maybe were leading to you to be deficient and not getting in as much. And so that's where a magnesium supplement can not just be helpful, but maybe essential, because the statistics are staggering. When we look in the United States, up to 80%, and guys, I want you to know that it's more men than women, are not getting in enough magnesium. And when I talk about it, I want you to be clear what I'm basing that on is the recommended daily allowance. Now, keep in mind that recommended daily allowances are only set to prevent disease. They're not telling you about what's going to be the right amount of magnesium in your body to go out and perform that triathlon, or to go to that high intensity training class and then also go and perform well at the gym, or to be able to play with your kids and get to a good night's sleep and wake up the next day and go to work and do all the things that you want to do. So 80% of the US population is not getting in enough magnesium. And that's because while we were talking about before, it can be challenging to get in not just those healthy foods, but enough of those healthy foods in order to meet your RDA. And now I'm going to tell you that many of us actually need more than our RDA because of the demands that we're putting on our body, whether it's the unhealthy levels of stress that we're experiencing just because of the stress of modern living, or the healthy stress that we're adding to our lives because of things like our fitness performance and our sports and the happiness and all of the good kinds of stress that we're experiencing. So it absolutely becomes critical. So what I wanted to hone in on now is one of the reasons I talk about getting magnesium in as it relates from a supplemental standpoint is twofold. The first reason is it's difficult to get it in from food. And you're hearing here from a dietitian who believes that she can craft, menus and actually has crafted a magnesium menu, which I'll offer you guys at the end. So there are ways to work towards getting that in to make upgrades. So if you increase the amount of cacao, if you're having a dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate, you can get in some more magnesium, but it can be difficult. But the other part is, remember I told you when we're experiencing stress, the body moves attention away from digestion. And this is where magnesium, and in particular supplemental magnesium, and now I'm going to add on in particular powdered supplemental magnesium, is so helpful. Because liquid nutrition, a powder that that when you make the powder into a liquid, so with my natural calm, whether it's calm full gut, calm full muscles, or regular natural calm, I will mix it with water, warm water, and sip on it. Sometimes I'll make it into ice cubes. Sometimes I put it into my herbal tea. There are many different ways, but I make it into a liquid. You could put it into your smoothie, and Natural Vitality actually has a bunch of my favorite recipes, and I have some of them on my website as well. And that is when you're getting it in the liquid form, your body can absorb it and it can go to work in that moment. Now, what we want to understand is that for better sports nutrition, it's magnesium plus. We talked about magnesium plus calcium, which helps support healthy muscle contraction and bone strength, both of which are essential to your better sports performance. I want to mention magnesium and glutamine. Glutamine, when the body experiences stress, also when we've taken medications, if we've dealt with childbirth, if we've dealt with any physical conditions affecting our digestive system, glutamine is responsible for the integrity, or one of the nutrients that's core to the integrity of our digestive tract. Remember, before I told you you're not what you digest, you're not what you eat, you are what you digest and absorb. And so what's critical to that is making sure that the lining, the mucosal layer of your digestive tract, is allowing for better absorption. And that's where glutamine is very, very effective. So especially if anyone has experienced any intolerances or irritation throughout their digestive system, it's going to be all the more important that we repair and we restore that integrity. But for my athletes, as well as for those that are training like an athlete, I'm very, very conscious of getting in sufficient glutamine, not just for what it does in the muscles, but also for what it does for the digestive tract lining. So I love that Calm Full Gut includes that. We also have L-carnitine, which one of the reasons that we're participating in sports and fitness is to optimize our fat metabolism and also to make sure that our muscles are functioning properly. And that's critical to L-carnitine is critical to that when combined with magnesium. And so we've got that in the console muscles. Bromelain is another one. It's a digestive enzyme that helps support digestion and may help reduce inflammation. So with that inflammation that comes on as a result of our fitness activity and the stress that we're putting on the body. And beetroot powder. We were talking before about how magnesium helps with the oxygen. We also, with that beetroot powder, for that healthy blood vessel, healthy blood flow, and then remember the relaxation and contraction of the blood vessels is also going to be that calcium and magnesium. So these all work in concert, and just a shout out to Natural Vitality. And oh, by the way, if you're the winner of the grand prize, which remember we're going to pick from those of you that have participated in this webinar live, we're going to pick a grand prize winner, and you will be eligible to get these along with some additional Better Nutrition tools. Okay, so now we get to, for me, this is the really fun part. I always love sharing the Better Nutrition tips and explaining about magnesium. Magnesium was game changer for me early on in my life and in my pursuit of better health, because it really was about my digestion. But what was interesting is I was a very, very average. I loved sports, but very average on the sports front. But I so enjoyed it. And one of the things that I didn't put together until later in life was what that meant for me, what magnesium could do from a fitness standpoint. So I loved kind of the combination of these two. And as I mentioned, I got to meet this guy, Jake, who is a fitness professional and wellness coach in Houston, Texas. He was just telling me about this incredible 2-day hiking trip that he took, which just sounded so wonderful. It sounded like about a day out of Las Vegas. So we were just talking about getting outdoors. He's also a veteran. So Jake, on behalf of everyone, I want to thank you for your service to the country, and a master fitness trainer. And one of the things that I so enjoyed about Jake when I met him was he was telling me just about the level of education he pursues. He pursues working with the leaders and taking classes from people, whether it's Jerkin or Mike Boyle, but also educating himself, getting certifications. He's been testing out Better Nutrition tools and engaging with them. And so without further ado, Jake, I want to say welcome. We're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much, Ashley. You just caught a cramp. I was eating my dark chocolate almond bar, so hopefully that helps with the magnesium intake here.
That's right.
No, yeah, I'm excited to be a part of this. Magnesium has honestly, on a personal level, helped me a lot. I started taking it probably about a year ago, and my sleep totally changed. I used to think that I had kind of an energy deficiency issue. I thought that I had chronic fatigue, and I had a bunch of studies done. And once I started taking magnesium, I can honestly say that my sleep, the depth of my sleep based off of an actual tracker, went 30 to 40% higher.
Wow. So I love that. And I'm not as great on the technology side and the fitness assessment side. And that was actually a question that came up in terms of how can people assess how using magnesium improves their outcomes. So I'd like to get to that one. I'm going to back up and start with some of the other questions, but just a reminder that I'm going to get to that. We have a handful of people. I just want to say to Jennifer and Jill and Sharu, we are definitely going to be answering your questions. And also to everyone, these are the questions, as I said, that I crowdsourced, and these are the questions I had for Jake. So as we're talking, if more questions come up, please add them to the question box, and we'll make sure that we get to those. Okay. So Jake, a big part of this, you're very much about, from a performance standpoint, just tapping into your intuition and really the mind and the body connection. And so I would love to, the first question that I was asked to ask is about, what do you perceive fuels a better mindset? What have you seen in the distinction between your clients who become very successful or who are successful? Tell us a little bit about that mindset piece.
I think a big thing for general fitness is you have to believe that you are an athlete. If you're exercising, if you're out doing things that are active, if you're enjoying a hike, if you're going on a swim, if you're taking kids to the beach, you're doing athletic movements all day. So a big thing that you have to understand is the way that you train has to be a lot of the way that you live. So you have to believe that your body can heal, that you have to believe that your body can get stronger. You have to believe that you're capabilities are a little bit higher than maybe where you mentally are at that point of beginning a training program or a fitness routine. I don't necessarily like saying a workout, because I believe that you're always training for life. You're always training for the activities that you enjoy. If you enjoy going on a bike ride, or if you enjoy going for a run, then you need to train for those things and exercise to help improve that. So believe in yourself and believe that your physical capabilities are kind of driven by your habits and your daily actions.
Mm. I think that's so powerful. And it's a great segue into when you and I actually interacted. I was saying, like, is there a type of fitness that you ascribe to, or how would you describe it? And so what I wanted to talk about now is, what is functional fitness, and how does it differ then from standard strength training and cardiovascular workouts? I think you were starting to talk about that, but tell us a little bit more about what functional fitness is really about.
Well, functional fitness is more built off of, for kind of a medical term, the activities of daily living, kind of the things that you're going to go out and do that help you to live a life that's fulfilling and joyful. So we test more things of balance. So we'll test more with like your vestibular system, how your brain actually reacts whenever you're on different surfaces, your proprioception. Instead of just maybe going and laying down on a bench and doing a single bench press, which I'm not against those either. Everything has its place. But functional fitness is more designed to improve the way you live your life on a consistent basis. So it allows you to do those things that are fulfilling for you in an active physical way. And the training programs are just more developed with a lot different activities that challenge your body. And from, let's say, I like to use a scale. And the scale that I kind of use goes from laying on a bench doing a bench press to standing up and doing a cable chest press, to where your entire body's involved and you have to stabilize from your feet to your head to be able to press that cable forward.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I love thinking about how we can actually, I can envision how some of the workouts that I now do, and some of what we learned at Ideas about doing that, how I actually incorporate them into the day, and I see my body moving that way. I think we're all sold on the fact that fitness can alter the way our bodies and brains age, but I'd love to understand from you and your experiences, how does that happen? How does fitness alter that?
For sure. So Tri Fitness Gym is our gym, and I'm a specialist in functional aging. And I really try to take an approach that's going to help me to help everyone from 5 years old to 90 years old. And the things that I've learned through my studies and through trainings really is that your activities and the way that you treat yourself are going to affect how you age. So if you're out doing active things, if you're out being a part of your community, if you're out finding those fulfilling parts of your life that continuously help you to stay active and stay engaged, then your brain stays engaged, your muscles stay engaged, all the bodily processes continue to actually stay strong. And it does take consistency, right? So you have to exercise 3 to 4 days with a moderate amount to higher intensity exercises. You can't just go through the motions to necessarily see the specific changes and the specific adaptations that can happen whenever you exercise. But it can also, exercise can reverse a lot of the effects of aging, everything from osteopenia to osteoporosis, even to sarcopenia, which is a loss of bone mass or muscle mass due to aging. We've also, in recent studies, seen how neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to continue to create and learn new things and create new pathways and hold on to memories more efficiently. And that's been shown upwards into the 90-year-olds who stay active and stay physically engaged in their life. So just be an active participant every single day in the things that you're doing and challenge yourself on some form or fashion consistently has shown to slow the aging process by almost a half per year. So you only age 6 months in a year period.
Wow, that's amazing. And I want to go back on something you said, 3 days. Does that mean that you have to, does it mean that you notice results after 3 days consecutively, or that you always need to be doing things in 3-day increments? Like, can I have a day in between? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So the big thing that makes a difference, the number one word is consistency. I like to train people for life, not train people for a season. So overall, you need to be working out on a consistent basis, 3 to 4 days a week, doing something that's moderately challenging. Your body adapts to the challenges. It doesn't, and if you only challenge it on the same way consistently, you're not going to see those improvements. And it's also specific to what you're doing. If it's obviously for athletic feats, then obviously you have to push yourself a little harder to meet the new PR, to get the personal records, consistently. But for general fitness, you still have to moderately challenge your body 3 to 4 days a week to keep those consistent results happening and to maintain those physical capabilities.
And I think, tagged in with that, I think that I get questions from people. We're all trying to fit everything in our lives. So I can appreciate that part. And so there were a bunch of questions about, well, is it better to take a day off or several days off, or do I do an active recovery day? Should I train every day? Should I do the same thing on the weekday or the weekend? And a lot of what you're saying is that this is for train for life. I think we're hearing a consistent theme, but if you could just sort of debunk some of the myths associated with what somebody has to do and kind of talk a little bit about how you put together a plan for someone, that'd be great.
For sure. So for me, I think the first thing I'll tell you is that exercise should heal you, not kill you. And I think a lot of the misnomers we have in the fitness industry right now and a lot of the different workouts are for killing people. And there's also a look at, you always have to go in, and if you don't hurt the next day, that it's not doing anything. And that's totally wrong. If you're in pain during a workout, literally you need to run from that location, go somewhere else. But consistency, like I said, 3 to 4 days a week is the biggest factor that you'll see over time. You can't eat healthy, 2 days a week and then 5 days a week not eat healthy and see those results happen. And if you're short on time, the most efficient types of exercises that give a plethora of benefits is going to be high intensity interval training for 20 to 30 minutes. And you could do that, if you're only doing 20, 30 minutes and you have specific goals, you may not meet a consistent weight loss goal, but you're going to get a lot of the big health benefits that come from exercise. And as you know, with weight loss, your diet plays a major role. It's really hard to outwork a bad diet. So you just really need to be clear on what you want and just stay dedicated to being active and having an active lifestyle. And you'll start to see over time a whole lot of benefits from it in general. And 20 to 30 minutes a day, 3 to 4 days a week is a great start.
Awesome. So another one that I think people, I think we understand the notion of stretching, and even like with the popularity of foam rollers and some of the other stuff. But sometimes I'm at I'm working out, or I've either gone to work out with someone, or I've gotten a workout in at the gym, and then somebody says to me, "Yeah, and when you go home, it'd be great if you could take this ball again, the lacrosse ball on the floor, and do this, and 20 minutes with your foam roller, and then this." And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, where am I going to find the time for all of this? And so how do you incorporate stretching in? Does it really matter? Is it something that's ancillary to your workout, or is it before and after better? What's maybe the functional approach to stretching?
The best functional approach to stretching is personal functional approach. So how does your lifestyle cause some sort of imbalances, or does your lifestyle cause some sort of imbalances? And a good coach will take you through a functional movement screen of some sort. It doesn't have to be the coined FMS, but they'll take you through a screening process to see if you have an imbalance in your right hip or your left hip, or if there are some tightness in certain ways, or if you're lacking a little bit of muscle engagement in certain places. And a mobility warm-up is extremely important, if you ask me, especially since we're kind of living a lifestyle now that is more and more restricted when it comes to our physical movement. So I'll tell my clients, even on their own, if they're coming to me 3 or 4 days a week, if they just do a 15-minute kind of functional movement mobility warm-up with a little bit of foam rolling on their recovery days or their active recovery days, I'm okay with that. We are becoming less and less active, and we are becoming more and more restricted to our physical movement. So going from the cubicle straight to an overhead squat press or something that is really, really challenging, and your mobility for your joints is not a smart move. So just make sure that if you're going into a workout program is with the mobility warm-ups, to warm up properly, and then cool down as well is extremely important to allow your, not even just the muscles themselves, but for your heart and your blood flow to come back down to a nice relaxed level, to allow for your body to get prepped to just go on for the rest of the day, instead of just going straight to the next thing. Just kind of like you said before, that is another stressor. Exercise is a stressor. It actually harms our body if we don't allow recovery. So it's something else that you also have to be intelligent about and take on an approach that heals you and not hurts you.
Yeah, so I think I so resonate with that, and I think it's hard. But you see people like drive right up to like the CrossFit studio and run in and just start doing it, and you're like, okay, we can understand, that the body might feel a little bit shocked from that experience. So I was doing a layman's version of describing muscle contraction and relaxation, and I had some questions around muscle fibers and how they actually work, especially during physical activity. And one of the questions I didn't list on here, but that came to me as well through this, is just about the slow twitch and faster. And somebody was asking me about, with workouts, are you meant to do things is it better to be holding positions for longer or to be, really rapidly moving? So if you can talk a little bit about how those muscle fibers work and as it relates to, what happens or what are we trying to optimize during physical activity, that would be great.
I think a big thing, like I was saying earlier, is the recovery part. So depending on how well you're recovering or the lack of how well you're recovering is going to have a big impact on how you train. And if you've got joint issues, if you got some pain somewhere, then a slower, more controlled movement may help. But to be more functional, you do want to have some power and some speed in your workouts. So there's the type 1, type 2 fiber. You kind of train both in a functional way. If you're a power athlete, you're going to need those really, really strong fibers. So you have to train strength, but then you also have to train power to be able to get that overhead really quick and hold it. So it's all going to be a kind of dynamic balance between what your goals are. But in the long run, just having that ability to recover properly and not have a higher heart rate whenever you're not supposed to on a regular basis. If your heart rate on a regular basis is 68 and it's, you go to sleep and it's 75 consistently for a couple of days, that's a sign of overtraining. And that means that your muscles aren't recovering enough to contract properly, and your heart's a muscle as well. And so you have to take all those things into consideration to understand that depending on what your goals are, if you don't recover, your training isn't effective. If you don't put gasoline inside your car, it's going to run out of gas. And if you don't put magnesium and everything else that you need inside your car, your muscles aren't going to contract properly. But the best way is to, over time, just test out how you sleep, test out how your heart rate is. Are you able to get stronger? And you're going to hit ceilings. You're definitely going to hit ceilings over time. So that's where your training program can go from a 6-week to an 8-week, and then you kind of downgrade for 2 weeks, then you come back up for 6 weeks, and that allows your body for a full recovery. But if you're not in tune with your body, it can be hard to understand whether your muscles are contracting properly or they're not contracting properly. And you actually recruit more muscle fibers on your eccentric motion, which if you do your bicep flex again, whenever you bring your fist towards your shoulder, that's going to be your concentric. So the muscles overlap and they're stronger. And then you actually extend the fist away from your shoulder. That's going to be your eccentric motion. So it's kind of extending. That's how I think of it, as contracting. So they come together, concentrating, then extending the eccentric. There's more space there. So you have more surface area. So that actually allows for those muscles to become stronger by themselves because they're not crossed over. Does that make sense?
It does. And, I've always struggled with how to remember those things. And you just gave me the greatest way. So thank you. It was like I couldn't remember how to remember. I struggled with how to remember which was which. I think it's so important. And one of the things that you touched on there is a question that I get all the time. So in the nutrition space, I am obsessed with telling people that you do not want to guess what your body needs. We need to be assessing, and we need to be doing a better job of assessment. It's why I created tools like the magnesium evaluation, the digestive evaluation. We can't assume the calcium evaluation. We can't assume that we just need, somebody will say like, well, the RDA of magnesium is 400, right, for an adult. And, but that doesn't mean that we just go out and pop a pill that's 400 milligrams. We need to understand when we look at what's going on in our life and in our body, how much we need to be getting in, how much we are getting in potentially from food, and what we can supplement with, et cetera. And so if I take that assessment model, so not guessing, but assessing, give me 4 or 5 of, you mentioned you're looking at your heart rate at night to see how your body's recovering. What are 4 or 5 of the tools that you can use to actually see how your performance is improving as a result of dialing in both your functional fitness and your nutrition?
Well, heart rate is a big one. That's kind of the easiest, I would say, over time. But for that too, like your sleep quality is going to be big. And if you're not in tune with that, then I would suggest getting some sort of sleep tracker. It's extremely important. The amount of sleep we get and the type of sleep we get is extremely important. I was getting 8 hours of sleep, but I wasn't hardly hitting REM. I wasn't getting enough deep sleep. So that's another thing. And I think if your stress levels, if you feel consistently stressed and you're not in a positive mindset, and you normally are from exercise, then you're probably downing yourself. So you're probably giving yourself a little bit too much stress. So you're adding to, which you said earlier, the eustress, which is the good stress, which even good things are stressful. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. So you have to balance it out. So, and make sure that if you're not able to come out and feel energetic on the next day, maybe you shouldn't be doing that type of workout again. And then the next thing is, usually for me, it's the way for my clients to gauge is if after through the warm up and we go through a little bit of that initial start, if they're not able to come out of whatever fatigue or kind of fog they have from work or stressors, and they're still kind of down and they're not feeling it, I will cut the workout in half or change completely. So there's a sign there that's showing me that their body's not coming to train the way it was on Tuesday, on Wednesday. So I will totally adapt.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah,
And I think
that's
that's,
so smart.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's so smart because I think sometimes we have in our brain what we're supposed to do and we go in for that piece. That's super smart.
No, and life is meant to be lived to the fullest, right? And we look at exercise programs a lot of times as our fix, but they're not your fix. They're your medication. They're your way of actually going through your day in a healthy manner. And I tell my clients to cross train as much as possible. So you can go and do hiking, go do biking, go do swimming, go do Tai Chi, go do yoga, go do CrossFit, go do functional fitness, go do sprinting. Do things that challenge you and keep you engaged mentally, because that's, you don't ever wake up in the middle of a run. You know, you have to tell yourself to go run, right? Your brain is going to be like, okay, let's go do this. So if you burn out, then you're just like work, you're no good. Your workouts are now mediocre. So just be in tune with how you feel. And if you, through your warm up, you can't get that energy and you can't get that pump, it's okay to alter it. It's okay to go to an active recovery where you do foam roll for 30 minutes, go through some deep breathing techniques, maybe do some savasana or something like that to allow you to heal. So your workouts are that much more effective the next time you're in the gym, or you don't have to be in a gym, or the next time you're at any location, in your activity.
I love it. Or get a massage. All right, Jake, I'm going to hit a pause here because
Yeah.
we got a ton of questions that came in. I just want to real quickly, let me come over here. I want to take I have a million more questions. And if you're like me and you have a million more questions for Jake, we'll make sure that you have his contact information. And he's also on social media. But I wanted to remind you just of some of the other tools. We talked about chocolate and a lot of these other sources and how you can actually get in magnesium. So over at the Better Nutrition Program, whether for in the heart health package or in several of the different packages, we have the Better Magnesium menu, and we also have these recipes. I also mentioned that Natural Vitality has some great recipes on their site. So both locations for you. As part of the Better Nutrition Program, I was mentioning the heart health package, but we also have a range of different tools. When you get the slides, you'll have the hyperlink. Not only are you getting the magnesium evaluation, I hope by now you guys have all downloaded it so that you can see, but we also have prior webinars that I've done specifically on magnesium, as well as on other lifestyle topics that talk about how you can incorporate in magnesium and calcium and some of the others, videos, as well as other tools. And I do a supplement evaluation, as well as have things like the stress package, better energy package, better digestion package that are going to give you those tools that will help you to make sure that you're assessing if you're getting in the right nutrients to help your body in each one of those areas. And I just wanted also, this is one of my favorite resources. If you like to geek out on the research or read, not everything on here is research studies. There are videos, there are featured articles, but the Nutritional Magnesium Association is an incredible place. The professionals that they bring in, and you can sign up for their newsletter to make sure that you're really staying abreast of this whole conversation on magnesium. I have some additional resources that I included in here just so that when you have when you get the slides, you'll be able to review those as well. It goes in depth a little bit more about some of the things that I was talking about. Okay, I wanted to do this because Jake and I are available for these questions now, and I wanted to make sure that I answered them. So Jennifer, your question about how much do we need by age, I would direct you over to so there's two differences. One of the challenges with making a recommendation by age is that it assumes that any of us at a particular age are the same life stage or the same needs. So while we do have at the government level the RDAs based on specific age, and we can get that heading over to the USDA, and you'll see the magnesium RDA that differs based on age. That's actually only a guide, and it's a very baseline guide that I use because a 40-year-old woman could have literally just given birth to twins. She could be a triathlete. She could be somebody who is extremely sedentary. She could be somebody who deals with high stress, who has heart health issues, who is consuming a lot of magnesium, who is not getting in magnesium, and I go on and on. And so I think what we want to be careful about is not stating that we're talking about a need of a certain nutrient by age. It's really bigger than that. The assessments go beyond your weight and your height. They go beyond your age. When I look at a better nutrition assessment, I'm looking at all of the factors, what goes in and on your body most often, what your current health is, what your health history is, and also what your health goals are, as well as what's doable for you is going to be a factor in your intake and in the overall recommendation. Charu asked us, your husband and you use calm at night before going to bed, but I feel it gives me acid reflux. Is it not buffered? Would changing the time I take help it? So what I can tell you is that reflux is a result of many things going on throughout your system. And so one of the things about going to sleep and lying down flat is that we are actually, when we're lying down flat, we're increasing the likelihood of having reflux. And remember, reflux, whether it is acid or not, is about things going in the wrong direction. They're going back up. And so when that happens, when we're lying down, that relaxation, that reflux is easier to happen than when we're standing up. So the first thing about sleep is that the first thing about reflux is that sleep can be a factor. The other thing that's a factor is sometimes at dinner or in the evening, we consume too much at one time. And when we consume too much at one time, that puts more pressure and can have things going in the higher direction. One of the other things, and this goes specifically to the magnesium, really doesn't have anything to do with the buffered or the form of the magnesium, is that magnesium, as we were talking about, is allowing for muscle relaxation. So we do have an esophageal sphincter, the LES, that's there. And if that is relaxing, that can increase the likelihood of us having reflux. So when I look at that combined with all the other aspects of the sleep, laying flat and all these other things, then I would feel very comfortable saying that for you, if you're experiencing this, I would look at addressing all those different things. You might want to sleep at a higher angle. You might want to eat less, depending on what your intake is. I don't know. You might be eating very appropriately, but you might want to look at what you're eating or what you're taking before bedtime. But certainly there would be no harm in trying out taking the calm, perhaps in the middle of the afternoon. Some people really enjoy taking calm on waking, and that could work for you as well in that space. Will it help to regulate sleep? Jennifer, yes. I think some of the things that Jake were talking about and just overall our fitness is critical for regulating sleep. But in order for our body to both fall asleep and stay asleep better, we actually want to make sure that our system is getting all the signals that we can give it, that it should be sleeping. And so to regulate that sleep effectively, we need to, just like Jake was saying, we need several days in a row, or not in a row, but several days of fitness for our bodies to feel the results. We need the same thing from a better sleep standpoint. There is actually a Calm Sleep product that I really like, and I found useful for some of my patients who maybe were even considering trying or had in the past tried a sleep medication. And that's a great one to talk to your practitioner about, or if you don't have a practitioner, we can have an offline conversation about that part. But yes, the regulation of sleep is really a part of allowing the body to relax and recover more effectively. Does magnesium have any interactions with common prescriptions or impact on depression, anxiety, and mental illness? So magnesium is a nutrient found in food. So the magnesium itself should have positive interactions for all the reasons we were talking about in terms of allowing for the muscle to relax and allowing for what that means related to digestion and overall health. And so it should have positive impact on depression, anxiety, and mental illness and mental health in that part. So I think when we're talking about magnesium, we should specify the distinction between magnesium that we would find in food and magnesium that we would find in the supplemental form, because it would be unlikely that magnesium in food would have any interactions with your common prescriptions. Magnesium in the supplemental form can have an interaction, and that interaction may actually not be negative. I was just talking about sleep medication or depression or medication for anxiety. When I work with psychotherapists and psychiatrists and talk to them about better nutrition for these for protocols for their patients, I always tell them that the first thing that we need to do is have your patient do the magnesium evaluation and get in for a period of time an adequate amount of magnesium, so that when we're restoring the amount of magnesium, we're actually going to be able to understand what would be an effective dose of their medication. So my recommendation there is always have your healthcare practitioner be informed about anything that you are taking. And that can be, protein powders these days, bars can have additional, supplemental nutrients. Make sure that they're in there, because a supplemental ingredient will have an interaction. The question is that interaction going to help you maybe even not need a medication or reduce the amount of medication, or could it potentially have a negative interaction? There aren't too many medications where I would be concerned about a negative interaction, but there are some individuals where, maybe if somebody is being challenged where digestively they're more prone to loose stools or something else is going on with digestion, I might look at when they're taking magnesium or how they're getting in magnesium. But this whole conversation is why I do the supplement evaluation as part of my services. Because I want to evaluate your health status, your health goals, what you're eating, what you're getting from your food, as well as advise on what would be a better supplement in that part. But again, you should be advising your practitioner on that part. What are your thoughts on magnesium glycinate versus citrate versus oxide? There are many different forms that magnesium comes in. I love the citrate form. What you're not asking here is tablet versus pill versus cream versus oil. So I'm a really big fan of the powder form for the reasons I was talking about at the beginning of the conversation. My thoughts are on each of these. There may be pros and cons associated with where the individual is at, and also, quite frankly, the finances of them. Glycinate tends to be more expensive, historically has been more expensive. Oxide has not been as well absorbed in most instances, so there might be a different form of an oxide, but citrate has really been my happy place, and so that's the one that I've played with and recommended more often. What is the recommended magnesium calcium ratio for building bone and fighting osteoporosis, osteopenia? So this is multifactorial. In most instances, we're looking for a 1-to-1, but remember that when we're talking about 1-to-1, we're talking about total magnesium intake, total calcium intake, and absorption of magnesium and calcium. So there are reasons we might not absorb magnesium well, or we might not absorb calcium well. Maybe you're taking a multi that also has iron in it. Could the iron be preventing absorption of the magnesium or challenging the absorption of the calcium? So it's not just about the numeric piece on there. Again, this is why I do the supplement evaluation to really put all this together. And when it comes to bone building, that it's also about your magnesium and calcium ratio, likely that total ratio being closer to 1-to-1 for most individuals. But to really maintain healthy bone, or even to have appreciable bone growth, you need to make sure that we're getting in nutrients like vitamin K and vitamin D, and that we're doing things like the strength training or the functional training that's going to allow for that weight bearing to allow the bone to build, and to fight that, to help prevent that osteoporosis and osteopenia. One of the other things about osteoporosis and osteopenia is you may be taking a medication. If you're taking a medication, that may also be impacting your nutrient needs overall and your absorption on that part. Okay, I raced through, but I think I got to those questions. Jake, I had someone actually text me a question, so I'm going to throw one over to you. They were texting it while you were talking on that part. And that is about when you're doing a fitness assessment, or I'm sorry, they wrote when they're trying to find, I think that you inspired them on this functional fitness standpoint. They were asking me, do you know that is it going to certain classes are functional fitness, or how do they identify somebody who has learned and practices the way that you're speaking about it in functional fitness?
Okay, so there are multiple certifications. So there's one through Mike Boyle, one of the ones I have is a Certified Functional Strength Coach, CFSC. But there are also multiple classes. So a lot of the classes you'll see are functional strength training nowadays, and they may not say that. They might say high intensity interval training. And I don't want to personally say because I don't necessarily take any of the classes, but if you will Google functional strength, you'll probably find specific coaches in your area that do functional strength training, and you could also look at IDEA. So their website has a lot of information on the trainers. They'll have their bios, but the trainers themselves, depending on how they design the program, may have the ability to design you a functional fitness program if that's something that you want. So I think I would just be specific on what you ask whenever you go to search. But it's like anything else. All coaches and trainers aren't equal. They're not created the same. So find someone who has the education. Make sure that they're giving you a full assessment, a personal assessment that takes everything into accountability of your stress levels, your physical capabilities, your physical inabilities, your injuries, and all of that. And then over time, that trainer, most trainers will probably be able to, or coaches will be able to design you a functional fitness training program.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, I think I'm just going to check that we got everybody's questions. Thank you to everyone for joining. All of you who joined live are now entered to win the grand prize. And also when you hang up, you will get an email from us with the recording. Please feel free to share the recording. Maybe this this conversation inspired you, or you're thinking about, hey, there's someone else that could benefit from this recording and watching this webinar. So please feel free to share it. And if you have not already grabbed the magnesium evaluation and done the evaluation, and just a reminder, if you want to share the evaluation results with me, you are more than welcome to through the email provided. Otherwise, I would highly recommend sharing your results also with your practitioner, any of your healthcare practitioners, whether you're working on the training side or whether it's with your doctor or someone who's working with you on another health side. And then my professional recommendation is to do it quarterly, because when you change what you're eating, or with the different seasons, because we change what we're eating or what we're doing or activity and these kinds of things, our overall magnesium needs and intake may shift. And so as a result, and certainly with any life stage changes, that those changes are good ones to get out in front of instead of identifying that you have a problem with it later. And then I'll leave you in closing with just a reminder to enjoy some dark chocolate, as Jake was talking about. Some dark chocolate with some cashew butter is an incredible way to get in some magnesium. And you can certainly cheers with me in the evening with I just do my natural calm is like my sweet thing that I have in the evening. It's sweetened with some stevia, and I enjoy it as something that I have after a meal as a way to sort of signal my body that it's now time to go to bed. So with that, we'll say goodbye to everyone. Thank you for joining us. And again, thank you to Natural Vitality. If you have any questions that come up afterwards, please feel free to contact me through the betternutritionprogram.com, and I will funnel them to the right expert or person to make sure you get you get your question answered. So thank you, and thank you, a huge thank you to Jake. I learned so much today, so really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.